right, so I wasn't gonna do this. I wasn't gonna do any kind of vlogging on the hurricane because that's what everybody else is doing. But I feel like maybe this will help me next time when there's a hurricane, to sort of explain to people that you don't need to get all worried about people. It's a freaking hurricane. It's not a tornado. You know, if you live in Key West, you're screwed. But if you live in Central Florida, or you live, you know, pretty much anywhere else in the state, we don't have levees and issues like, you know, like Texas had. So well, I'll show you kind of what to expect. And what happened to our house. So I'm guessing we probably got 70, 80, maybe 90 mile per hour gusts. And so you can see, you know, we have the bird cage, and this is about the extent, which one? The extent of the damage is, you know, we had our screen peel back. So, I mean, that's about the extent of what what you'll see. You know, some people's bird cages fell down, but ours is pretty stout. So, you know, that's the only damage we got to the house. You know, when you see people in Central Florida boarding up windows and stuff, I guess if 150 mile per hour gusts come through, which they didn't, and it's very unlikely that they would make it that far inland, even though they were predicting as much. You really, I mean, the magic of double pane windows, that they withstand, you know, 140, 150 mile per hour gusts. And so, you know, what you would say is, well, you know, debris, flying debris. Well, even 100 mile an hour winds aren't picking up these giant branches, you know, and so the odds of them coming through your window are pretty slim. So I think the message here is chill out. So anyway, you'll notice the perimeter of the property. This tree came down. I probably should have had this taken care of beforehand. But this large pine, you can see the top of it came off and then fell right here. You know, so it fell, you know, 20 feet from the house. And so I actually, believe it or not, I measured and walked off the tree before the storm, because I knew that one was probably going to come down even in a baby storm. But, you know, we've gotten most of this cleaned up, you know, most of this area. But this is so the hurricane was Sunday into Monday. So today's Wednesday. Michelle and I have done a lot of work, and then our yard guy just came and I talked to him about, you know, getting the rest of the property dialed in. This tree was already dead. I wish this thing came down. So we're gonna cut this thing out. But the entire, so areas where you didn't have trees weren't really a big deal. So this area, there was nothing. But just over the ways, because, you know, when you have live oaks and water oaks, they just dump crap. And so this entire driveway was filled. It was almost like if you had 20 or 15 inches of snow and you were wading through it. So we spent all of Monday, because the storm had blown through. So around 8 a.m. Monday, you know, there was still some gusts, but we were out there cleaning it up. But this thinned out so much. You know, this entire area will look like a gosh darn war zone. And you can see we still have a lot of limbs and stuff to clean up. This area really wasn't as bad. These trees aren't as old and they weren't as thick. But just imagine, so you see all this debris here. Just imagine all that on the driveway and everywhere. Here's what it looked like all of this. And then the driveway was destroyed. So we have piles of this stuff everywhere. I took maybe 15 or 18 truckloads. I actually used the Raptor, tried not to get any branches on the sides, to get this out of here, because, you know, this entire yard was destroyed with branches. But again, they're leaves and branches. We're not talking about some major issue. I just figured out, you know, we have a 30 kilowatt massive generator. What I didn't realize is that thing's it's a Ford V6. It's a 3-liter V6, and right now it basically has an open header. I just found out. I should have serviced it beforehand, but the muffler is completely rotted out. It runs on natural gas. So show you it's a massive Generac. There's our generator, our wells right there. So inside the box right here is a Ford 3-liter V6. And then this whole section here is the muffler and exhaust. But again, we basically have an open exhaust, open header, because the muffler's rotted out. And then we have a, sorry, it's super loud here. It's supposed to, this thing runs at, it's 60, from this distance at 23 feet, it's supposed to be 63 decibels. Well, I got my dB meter out and it's about 80, you know, 80, 78 to 81. And I was like, man, I think this thing's broken. Well, it is, the muffler's rotted out. And then we have a natural, so it runs on natural gas. We have a 500-gallon tank that's right in here. That's that hole in the center there. And one of the things that stinks is that we called about 2 weeks ago, just before the hurricane was even prevalent, just to get it refilled, because the tank was down to about 40%. Again, it's a 500-gallon tank, and they didn't come. And so then they got, you know, an influx of calls, and so we still haven't gotten propane. So I haven't been running the generator, one, because I thought it was broken because of how loud it is, and I haven't been running it all day. And two, we've been nursing the 40% tank. This thing runs, according to my calculations, will run, you know, 2 to 4, or let's say 3 to 5 gallons per hour of propane. So, shoot, if you ran that thing 24 hours, it would cost you $500 or $600 a day to run. But you know, we've been running it at night because it's, you know, it's 88, 90 degrees here. So here's a better representation. So this entire area looked like this. You know, where there were dozens and dozens of substantial tree branches down. Notice there's just a tree that's split in the back. There's a massive tree in the back here. There's 2 or 3 of them that came down. But I mean, this is the extent of the risk. And so all we do is keep these bigger trees away from the house. So we really only have a couple that are near the house, and they're really healthy. So we have them checked out occasionally. You know, the pole barn, I have got this all cleaned up. So as you might imagine, I was here cleaning this up first. So we got that completely done. Again, to put it into perspective, when you get 80-mile-an-hour gusts, so if you're in a Category 1 or Category 2 hurricane, this thing we just left out, it was sitting right here. It blew to right here. And, you know, it's a plastic house. So, you know, when everybody says be safe, I think I would rephrase it as, 1, don't do anything stupid. 2, I'm more worried about your roof caving in, you know, and your house getting messed up. Nobody's dying. You know, if you don't, as long as some really freak doesn't happen, you know, your house, you're not going to die in a category, even a Category 3 hurricane or 4 hurricane, if you're inland. Now, if you're on the beach and you're sitting in, you know, in your house, you know, the water could come up and kill you. But a block house like this, you know, with double pane windows, doesn't need to be boarded up, and it's not going anywhere. The only risk that you have is that one of these trees falls on, or, you know, some shingles get torn up and you have a leak. You know, fortunately we didn't have any issues, plus our house is pretty stout. And then anything built, you know, post, say, 98 has hurricane straps. So there's a threaded rods. If you guys saw me build the wash bay, there are threaded rods that run down into the concrete, into the block foundation. So anyway, we had this pretty significantly sized tree twist off and come down. And so again, we're Wednesday, we don't have power yet, I don't have cable. So, you know, you guys probably, you know, if you follow me regularly, you've noticed, you know, I haven't been really active because I can't. Cell service is super spotty, doesn't work very well. It gives you a quick taste of, you know, what happens. And everybody, as soon as the gas station gets any gas, people go and get it. You know, a lot of people are powering generators at their house, but, you know, they're topping their car off, and so there's lines at the gas station. Luckily, you know, I filled the Raptor up, and it was a 30-gallon tank, so I didn't need to get any gas. And now we're finally starting to see some gas stations get some spotty service, but you know, in general, it's been pretty tough. But anyway, hopefully you get a grown-up's perspective of what it's like in a hurricane in Central Florida anyway. That, you know, all this nonsense about, you know, we got 1 case of water, and then again, we're fortunate enough we have a whole house generator we can turn on, but you're gonna sweat and you know, afterwards, and you're gonna be cleaning up all kinds of crap if you have trees. Otherwise, it's not really that big of a deal. You know, you just go in the house and you don't come out and chew on power lines, and you should be good. You know, and I don't mean to be insensitive, but man, I got people in California or overseas saying, oh my gosh, you know, the media just blowing this thing out of proportion. I mean, this is the level of carnage that you're gonna see. It really doesn't get much worse than this. You know, unless you have a, you know, older home or a manufactured home or something that got hit by a tornado, and that's 1 in 100,000, or maybe even worse, you know, maybe even smaller odds that you have a significant issue where you have a hurricane or a tornado that shows up. And then again, you will have some localized flooding, but in Central Florida, or in Florida in general, you know, again, we don't have levees. You know, we have an aquifer underneath, so the water does a good job of disappearing, or, you know, and there's a lot of rules of retention ponds and things like that. So drainage is really good here, and, you know, we're slightly above sea level, so we don't have as bad of an issue with flooding. But I would guess we probably got 5 or 6 inches of rain, maybe 7. So nothing earth-shattering, but anyway, we've got a lot of cleanup to do. My yard guy, I'm probably gonna have to pay him a couple grand to come and get all this crap out of here to finish the rest of it. You know, we did the bulk of the areas here where we frequent, but you know, the extent of hurricane preparation from my perspective is have double pane windows, live in a block house, take all your patio, like we took all this patio furniture, we put it inside. But even then, again, even with 100-mile-an-hour plus winds, these chairs aren't going anywhere. You know, they're not, because you don't have projectiles flying through the air like tornadoes. So you don't have to worry about it as much as they make it out to be. Anyway, I didn't want to make this, but hopefully that makes sense. I'm sure I'll get some hate on this, but you know, whatever. I'm just giving you a perspective, a grown-up's perspective. You know, no fluff on what it was like during the hurricane. So anyway, thanks for watching my stuff, and we'll get this crap cleaned up. I'll get the screen fixed, and we'll be back to normal. Next time, I'll make sure to get propane beforehand, so I don't have to nurse the generator, and I'll get the generator set up so that it doesn't make so much noise. Anyway, talk to you guys soon. What happens when the force pulls you back, your foot naturally comes off the gas. You have to keep your foot to the floor, foot to the floor.